Hello dear students, I am very happy to be with you again, and I am sure you are doing your work very properly, revising. So today we are going to start with one chapter, and that is plant kingdom. So what we are going to start with? We are going to start with chapter plant kingdom. So in plant kingdom, most of the students, they find this chapter as if it is very tough, or they consider that it is really difficult to score in this chapter. But trust me, from now onwards it is going to be very easy chapter for you to cover. So in plant kingdom, what do we learn about? So in plant kingdom we talk about algae, then we talk about bryophytes, then we talk about then we talk about pteridophytes, then we talk about pteridophytes, then there is gymnosperms, and finally there are angiosperms, gymnosperm and angiosperms. So these are the 5 divisions we are going to study: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperm and angiosperms. So for us to start plant kingdom chapter, first thing, we should be very clear with few things. So most of the time we are comfortable with this chapter, angiosperm, and in 12th you have a separate chapter also, reproduction in angiosperm. So there also you learn this, reproduction in which one? Reproduction in angiosperms. So there also you see this. So let us see, first thing, few things we should know about few terms that I am going to explain you using angiosperms. So in this there are few points are there. So listen here. Okay, first point we will fix from here, pteridophytes. So you see, out of 5 divisions, only in this TO, so you write it separately 2, and just for the sake of remembering, this one we can correlate to the digit 2. So from here 2N, diploidy started. So pterido, gymno and angio. These are what type of people? These are diploid organisms. These are. That means majority of these algae, they are haploid. Bryophytes, major life of bryophytes, that is haploid. So major life from T, we can remember one thing, TO, pteridophytes. Then TRE, tracheae. So from here we can remember there is a start of which one? Tracheid. From pteridophyte onwards, pteridotracheid. So that means tracheid means what? Vascular tissue starts from here. Vascular tissue starts from here. And whenever there is a presence of vascular tissue, then what do we say? There will be, if there is a presence of vascular tissue, then true what will be there? True root, stem and leaves will be there. True root, stem and leaves. That means in pterido, gymno and angio, what will be there? Diploidy will be there. In pterido, gymno and angio, what will be there? Tracheids will be there. Though in angio vessels are mainly somewhere around 95%, we will go to the details when we will reach there. Then in pteridophytes, true root, stem and leaves starts. That means for bryophyte and algae we will not use the term root, stem and leaves, because what is the condition? Once we have vascular tissue, then we can name root, stem and leaf. So that is the reason here. So now in this, let us see few things we know about angiosperm. So I will discuss first about angiosperms, and then later on we can relate it, we can compare the same things with other divisions as well, because we are quite comfortable with the angiosperms. Like what farmers are growing? Farmers are growing bryo, algae, pteridophyte or angiosperms? Angiosperms, definitely correct, because flowering plants, and later on flower get converted into fruits. So we are comfortable with these angiosperms. So let us see about the angiosperms, what these angiosperms are. So we will discuss now about which one? About angiosperms. So if you look at, then in these angiosperms, so what we know, you listen here, Okay, talking about angiosperms. Angiosperms. So angiosperms, these you know very well, okay, these are flowering plant. Though the meaning of angio is vessel. What is the meaning of angio? Vessel. Tracheids and vessels. That means main conducting elements in them are what? Vessels. And sperm means seed. What is the meaning of sperm? Seed. That means gymnosperm and angiosperms. There will be formation of seed in them. So angio means vessel and sperm means seed. So in them, what is the reproductive structure here? We know reproductive structure here is flower. So what is reproductive structure in them? Flower is there. Now let us understand this thing first. What is flower? Flower is, what is flower? Flower is modified, not modified, modified. What is this? Modified stem. What flower is? Modified stem. That means shoot apical meristem changes into which one? Shoot apical meristem changes into floral meristem. What it changes into? Floral meristem. So very simple comparison if you look at, then what will be there? Okay, imagine this is the stem here. So these are nodes. These are nodes. And on nodes, you know very well what will be there? Leaves will be there. So let's say this is the outermost whorl and here these are leaves. Similarly, this is the second whorl and these are leaves there. Then this is the third whorl and these are the leaves. And this is the fourth whorl and this is the innermost. So these are nodes and on nodes what are there? Leaves. So if we condense this structure, if we condense, this structure if we condense, then what it will become? This structure if we will condense, then what it will become? It will become flower. Flower. That means this outermost whorl, it will be called as what? Calyx. Outermost whorl is called calyx. And each leaf in it, each leaf is termed as sepal. Each leaf would be called as what? Sepal. So the whorl of sepals would constitute calyx. Similarly, the next whorl, what is the next whorl? Next whorl is corolla. And each leaf of the corolla would be called as what? Petal. Each whorl. So which whorl is this? This one would be called as what? Petal, leaf. Similarly, what is this? The next one, this one, next one here. So we understood that floral meristem is nothing but modified shoot apical meristem. So this whorl, what this whorl will be called as? This whorl is called as androecium. Androecium. This is the floral whorl, androecium. So each leaf here, androecium is whorl. So each leaf here, what it will be called as? Each leaf will be called as stamen. So the whorl of stamen would constitute androecium. Similarly, here if you notice, then this is the innermost whorl and this stem this got condensed. So this innermost whorl, it is termed as gynoecium. So innermost whorl is called as gynoecium and each unit which you are seeing here, it is termed as leaf. So what word we would use for that? That is called as carpel, or what word we use for that? Pistil. Pistil. So this thing should be very clear to us. Okay, this stem got condensed and the outermost whorl would behave like calyx and the constituting unit would be termed as sepal. Then second whorl is called corolla and unit of that is petal. So what is that? That is like leaf, corolla. So corolla is whorl. Then third whorl is called androecium and its unit, each leaf is called stamen. Then innermost whorl is which one? Gynoecium. And each leaf is called what? Carpel or pistil. So we should be very clear, these stamens and carpels are what? Leaf they are. Leaf they are. That's why we use the word for stamen also and for carpel also. We use the word what? Since these are leaves. Leaf. And what word we use for this? The word which is used there is fill. So which word we use? Fill word we use. Fill. So let us start. So this is how flower is formed, which we learn very much in morpho as well. So now in angiosperms, we are talking about angiosperm. So what is the reproductive structure in angiosperm? Angiosperm reproductive structure is flower. So in that, from there we will see this from the perspective of angiosperms. From the perspective of angiosperms. So if you look here, so what structure is the reproductive one here? Flower. Flower is reproductive structure in them. So now if you look, then in case of male reproductive structure, male, and similarly there is a female reproductive structure. So male reproductive structure and female reproductive structure. So in male reproductive structure, just now we were talking about stamen is there, and in case of the female reproductive structure, what is there? Carpel is there. Carpel, or we say pistil is there. Carpel or pistil. What these things are? Carpel or pistil? Just now we discussed that these are nothing but leaf. And what word we use for leaf? The word which is used for leaf is fill. What word we use for leaf? Fill. So for stamen, it is going to produce microspores, and carpel, it is going to produce megaspore. So these are spore producing leaf. So what word we will use for stamen, since it will produce microspore? So it would be called as microsporophyll. So what type of leaf it is called as? Microsporophyll. So we are very clear that fill means leaf. Fill means leaf. And the leaf which is going to produce microspore, that is called microsporophyll. Similarly, this is carpel or pistil. So what type of spore it is going to produce? It is going to produce megaspore. So what it will produce? Megaspore. That is why we call it megasporophyll. So what type of leaf it is? The leaf which will produce megaspore. So it is called as megasporophyll. Fill means leaf again. So carpel or pistil, that is megasporophyll, and stamen is called which one? Microsporophyll. Fill means leaf. Very good. So in them, it is not that the entire part of stamen will produce this. So you know very well, in stamen there is a presence of anther, and then there is a presence of this filament, and connective is there. So in this, what is the range? This is anther. This is anther. So where would you find these microspore? In filament? No. In connective? No. So where we will find them? In anther, in pollen sac we learned. So what is the range of finding microspore? Within anther. That's why it is termed as microsporangium. So what it is called as? Microsporangium. Microsporangium. So what is the range of these finding microspore? That is within the anther. So that's why it is called as which one? Microsporangium. Similarly, if we look at here, then megaspore. So what we know very well, this is the ovary, then there is a style, and then stigma. So inside ovary there is a presence of ovule is there. So inside ovary what is there? Ovule is there. So inside ovary there is a presence of ovule. So what is the presence? Megaspore. What is the range? Would they be present in case of style? Not at all. Would they be there in the stigma? No. So where would you find ovule? Where would you find megaspores in? You will find them in ovule. Only in ovule. We learn there nucellus cells. So what is the range of finding megaspores? Ovule. That's why what ovule would be termed as? It is called as megasporangium. So what it is termed as? It is termed as megasporangium. Megasporangium. So what is the range of microspores? The range of microspores is anther. What is the range of megaspore? Range of megaspore is ovule. That's why it is called as megasporangium. So these terms should be very clear to us. Microsporophyll, megasporophyll. And what is the range of finding microspores? The range of finding microspores is where we will find in anther. So pollen sac, anther, that is called microsporangium. And ovule, it is called which one? It is called megasporangium. Range we will have there. Then you know very well in this, what would be present here? In this range, there will be these cells. So these cells, they are called as microspore mother cell. or we call them pollen mother cell. Pollen mother cell. Till now all the structures are diploid. In them there will be which division? Meiosis will occur. Meiosis. And then you will get these spores. So you will get what we will get? We will get their spores. Spores. These spores are the haploid thing. So what are the cells which are haploid in plant life? These are spores. So what spores are? First haploid cell. First haploid cell in plant life. These spores. So definitely what we will call these spores? These are termed as microspores. What these are termed as? Microspores. So spores are the first haploid cell. Similarly, in case of ovule as well, so what would we have? There will be presence of megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell. This megaspore mother cell is diploid. So in this megaspore mother cell, which is diploid, entire plant is diploid. So there will be meiosis. Which division will occur? Meiosis. And then there is a formation of haploid. Which structure haploid there? Megaspore. What is produced there? Megaspore is produced. Megaspore. So megasporophyll will produce megaspore and microsporophyll will produce microspore. So what is this? The main plant stage is diploid and it is producing the haploid stage which is called spore. So what is the first haploid stage? First haploid stage is spore. So I hope we are clear till here. Microspores and megaspores. So let us see now. When we take these spores, so we know very well that zygote get formed because of the fusion of gametes and zygote will be diploid. So what is the first diploid cell in life? Zygote. And first haploid cell here, what we are saying? Spores. So we should be clear with this. Okay, what are the haploid cells? These are spores. And diploid is which one? Diploid is zygote. So we are clear till here. So till here we are clear. Now let us see. So we got spore. So towards this side we are having microspore. Towards this side we are having microspore, and here we have got what we have got. Here we have got megaspore. Microspore we have got and megaspore we have got. So these, as you know very well, okay, these microspores are haploid. These megaspores, they are also haploid. So spores are the haploid cells. Now in haploid cells, what type of division will be there? Definitely mitosis. So these cells will undergo mitotic division, mitosis. So these cells would undergo which one? Mitosis. And then you know very well, okay, in angiosperms there will be formation of pollen grain. So what is produced there? Pollen grain. And pollen grain will contain male gametes. So which structure is this? This structure is called pollen grain. So which structure is this? Pollen grain. And this pollen grain will definitely be haploid. So this stage is called pollen grain. It is called male gametophyte. What it is called? This one is termed as male gametophyte. Male gametophyte. And these two structures which you are seeing here, these two structures, they are termed as male gametes. What they are called as? These are male gametes. So gametes are haploid, we know very well. So pay attention here. Phyte means what? Phyte means not the one which we have generally and we should never have ideally. So phyte means plant. Plant stage which will produce male gamete or which has male gamete is called male gametophyte. So what is the meaning of gametophyte? Phyte means plant stage having gamete. So in angiosperms, what is male gametophyte? Pollen grain, because it has male gametes. So what is gametophyte stage? Gametophyte stage is haploid. And you see here we know that these are two cells and another one is vegetative cell. So this is multicellular stage, haploid it is. Similarly, this will undergo mitosis and within the ovule this structure would develop. What this structure would develop into? This structure would develop into embryo sac. What it will develop into? Embryo sac. And within this embryo sac, you know, apart from synergids, these are synergids, we will learn there, and then there is a presence of cell that is called egg cell. So this is female gamete, which is larger. So megaspore will produce which gamete? Megaspore will produce egg. What egg is? That is megagamete. So what they will produce? Megagamete. And microspore will produce male gamete. What male gametes are? Male gametes are microgametes. So what these are? These are microgametes. So from megaspore through mitotic divisions it would develop into embryo sac. So very simple, we should find this pattern. So what embryo sac is called? Embryo sac is called female gametophyte. So what it is termed as? This is called as female gametophyte. Female gametophyte it is called as. Female gametophyte. So female gametophyte, as we were learning, phyte means plant, gamete. Male gamete will be contained in male gametophyte. Female gamete will be contained in female gametophyte. As embryo sac is female gametophyte, so what it would contain? It would contain female gamete. So what we should generalize? Gametophyte, haploid stage. Gametophyte, haploid stage. What it will contain? Gametes, because gametes are haploid. So what is male gametophyte in pollen? In case of angiosperms, pollen grain. What is female gametophyte in angiosperms? That is embryo sac. So gametophyte is haploid stage which contain gamete, but at the same time we should know that the first cell which is haploid in plant's life is spore. Here as we are seeing, this is microspore, this is megaspore. We are talking about angiosperms. So I hope this is clear. So we are clear with this fact. Okay, gametophyte, what are we clear with? Gametophyte is haploid and sporophyte. So this is how it is. So look now here, everybody pay attention here. Gametophyte we are clear. So what we were learning, let's say this is the angiosperm plant. Angiosperm plant is there. So all these roots, stem, then all these branches, leaves, then what will be there? There would be presence of which one? Leaves. Then there is a presence of flower. All these structures, as we were learning, diploidy started from pteridophytes. So these are diploid. These are diploid. Leaves are also diploid. Flowers are also diploid. Everything is diploid. Within this flower, stamen will be there. That is also diploid. So within this flower, what you will have? Stamen. That is also diploid. And in stamen there is a presence of anther, that is also diploid. In anther, that is diploid. So major phase of the plant life is diploid. This diploid, in anther we were learning, okay, what will be there? There is a presence of pollen mother cell, that is also diploid, and this will produce spore. This will produce a spore. These spores are haploid. It will produce a spore. These spores are haploid. So this main plant which we are seeing here, this spore in turn it will produce which one? We know pollen grain. So it will produce what? It will produce gametophyte. So the main pollen grain here, these major plant which you are observing here, starting from root, imagine mango tree. So root, stem, branches, leaves, flowers, in flower stamen, anther, pollen mother cell, everything is diploid. So what is the major dominant phase? Diploid. And what that diploid stage is producing? Spores. That is why this structure which we are seeing here, this one is termed as sporophyte. What it is called as? Sporophyte. So sporophyte, you know, we were learning phyte means plant. Plant stage which will produce spores. And we very much know this now. There is involvement of which one? Meiotic division there. So how it will produce meiosis? Through, how it will produce a spore here? Through meiosis. So these spores are the first cell, haploid cell. So this is called gametophyte. That means in angiosperms, this gametophyte, you imagine entire plant is there, root, mango tree, root, stem, leaves, flower. In flower is stamen, in stamen anther. Inside the anther there is pollen mother cell, and that pollen mother cell will produce microspore. So very tiny, highly reduced and fully dependent gametophyte. So this gametophyte is fully dependent on sporophyte. There is no existence of this gametophyte without a sporophyte. Is it possible that we will cut down that mango tree and only pollen grain will survive? No. That pollen grain, for its formation, it is completely dependent on these structures. So what is the major stage here? Sporophyte. So what is the sporophyte stage? Diploid stage here. And what it produces? It will produce a spore. So we are clear with two terms now. One is called sporophyte. Which stage is that? Diploid. Another one is called gametophyte. And which stage is that? That is haploid. So in these plants, gametophyte is totally 100% dependent on sporophyte for its formation. And when you look at mango tree, banyan tree, they are such a huge and gigantic trees. So that is main existence as compared to pollen grain or embryo sac. You see how tiny they are. So their existence totally depends on which one? Sporophyte. So this is the cycle. Okay, sporophyte will produce spores. Spores will produce gametophyte. Gametophytes will have gametes. They will fuse. And what will be there again? So there will be formation of the sporophyte. So this gametophyte here, since this is microspore, so what they will have? They will have male gamete. What they will have? Male gamete they will have. Similarly here, you know, in flower there will be presence of which one? Carpel. So what is there? Carpel is there. This carpel will produce which spore? Megaspore. What it will produce? Megaspore through meiosis. And you know very well, this megaspore will develop into which one? This megaspore will develop into embryo sac. Embryo sac. That is gametophyte, female gametophyte. And it will have what? It will have egg cell. So it will have egg cell. So in this is egg cell. So it is gametophyte, that's why gametes haploid. So this is also haploid. This is male gamete. This one is also haploid. So we know this, okay, these gametes will fuse. These gametes will fuse. These gametes. So what will be produced there? There will be formation of zygote. So what is produced? Zygote. And zygote will produce which one? Sporophyte. So what is the first diploid cell? First diploid cell is zygote. So what is the first cell of sporophyte? Zygote, diploid. What is the first cell of gametophyte? Spore. That is haploid. Isn't it also? So basically overall story is this. If you are clear with this. Overall story is this. What is the overall story? Overall story is this here. In these fellows, so these terms we should be very clear with in order to understand plant kingdom. So overall story is this. Sporophyte. Sporophyte. This is diploid stage. Through meiosis. Phyte means plant stage which will produce a spore. Through meiosis, it will produce what? It will produce spores. Spores. And these spores through mitosis. These spores through mitosis, because these are haploid cell. So what is the first cell of gametophyte? Spores. Through mitosis, they will produce which one? They will produce gametophyte. Gametophyte. This gametophyte contain what? Gamete. Gametophyte they will contain. So these are the gametes here. Gametes. These gametes after fusion, male and female gamete. So after fusion, male and female gamete, what they will produce? They will produce male and female gamete, they will fuse, and what we will get? We will get zygote. We will get zygote. So since zygote will be diploid cell, diploid. So this is the first cell of a sporophyte. What zygote is? first cell of sporophyte. Zygote is the first cell of sporophyte. This zygote will develop into sporophyte through which one again? Through mitosis. Mitosis it will develop. This is the overall story. So we should be very clear: sporophyte, diploid stage, and through meiosis it will produce spores. So spore, what spores are? First cell. This is spores. These are the what? First cell of gametophyte. These are the first cell of which stage? These are the first cell of gametophyte. And in this way the cycle would continue. Now this very tiny and highly reduced pollen grain and embryo sac. You imagine that entire mango tree, in that root, stem, leaves, flowers. Inside flower is stamen, in a stamen anther, in that anther microspore, and in microspore will develop into pollen grain. So it is totally dependent on the plant. Similarly flower, that carpel, stigma, style, ovary. Within ovary what is there? Ovule. Inside that ovule what is there? Embryo sac. So how much reduced it is? Highly reduced, and completely depend on the diploid plant stage. So that is how it is. So these words should be very clear to us. What is the meaning of haploid? What is the meaning of diploid? So what is a sporophyte stage? Phyte means plant. Plant stage which will produce spore. Then what is gametophyte? Plant stage which will produce or contain gamete. So gametes are haploid. So gametophyte, haploid stage, and sporophyte, diploid stage. That is how it goes. So if you are not clear with, I would request you to go through this again, because without knowing this thoroughly it is really very tough for us to understand the plant kingdom. So now let us come back to this. In this sometime let us talk about these spores. Few requirements. So we are learning fundamentals of plant kingdom. So just now we were learning spores are haploid, and these spores, they are the first cell of which stage? First cell of gametophyte. First cell of gametophyte. Microspore will produce pollen grain, and pollen grain is male gametophyte. That means gametophyte comes from a spore. Megaspore will produce embryo sac, that is female gametophyte. So first cell of which one? Gametophyte. So in angiosperm what word we use? Pollen grain will develop from microspore. Embryo sac will develop from megaspore. That means two types of spores are there. And in angiosperm there is a formation of seed, that also we know. So these spores, they could be of two types. One is homosporous condition. Homosporous condition is there. Homosporous. Another one is called heterosporous condition is there. Homosporous condition, and then another one is called which one? Heterosporous. So we know very well hetero means different. So in this heterosporous condition there will be two type of spores, microspores, and then there will be megaspores. And as we saw, microspore will produce which one? Male gametophyte. That means what it will have finally? Male gametophyte. It will produce male gametophyte, and this male gametophyte would contain what? It will contain male gametes. So what it will contain? Male gametes. And megaspore, this microspore and megaspore. So this megaspore will produce what? It will produce female gametophyte. Female gametophyte is this. Female gametophyte. And what it will contain? It will contain large gamete. What is that? That is female gamete. And these male gamete and female gamete, they will fuse. Then what we will get? The first cell of diploid stage. What is that? Zygote. Diploid. This zygote, we know through mitosis it will develop into embryo. And this embryo is present wherein? This embryo is there in seed. So heterospory is very, very essential for the formation of seed. So what heterospory is? Heterospory is the first and foremost condition, mandatory condition. So this is the foremost essential condition, most basic requirement, essential condition for the formation of, essential for what? Essential for seed formation. Seed formation. So spores, they are the first cell of gametophyte. Spores could be two types, homosporous as well as heterosporous. We were learning microspore will develop into pollen grain, megaspore would develop into female gametophyte. So what heterospore is very essential. It is very essential for seed formation. What do we call seed? Seed is termed as sperm. So heterospory would be there in which categories? It will be there in case of gymnosperm, and another one, which one? It would be there in case of angiosperms. That means for the formation of seed, what is very important thing? Heterospory. If two types of spores will not be there, seed will not be formed. Other than n number of requirements, first and foremost condition which is required for seed formation is heterospory. Heterospory. It is like n number of conditions you should revise, you should prepare, you should revise again, you should solve n number of questions. All those are required. But other than, the most important thing is what? You should be having physics, chemistry and bio in your 11th and 12th. Then you can write NEET exam. Like that. For seed formation, the most important is heterospory. Then only there could be formation of seed. So seed means sperm, and this you know very well. We use this word for gymno and angio. That means gymno and angiosperm, there will be heterospory. That means in homosporous condition, where you will see homosporous condition would be seen in case of algae, then in case of bryophytes, and then it is seen in case of the pteridophytes. So in them, no seed formation. In these there is no seed formation. In them, seed formation does not occur. No seed formation. That's why they are termed as what? These are termed as homosporous. So this is the thing. So what spores are? First cell of gametophyte. The spores could be homosporous, they could be heterosporous. What heterospory is very essential? Heterospory is the essential condition for seed formation. Seed is called, what seed is called? Seed is called sperm. So it will be there in gymnosperm, it will be there in angiosperms. So this is how, if seeds are not there, then there is no need to have different type of spores. So homo means same type of spores will be there. Algae, bryo and pterido. So as of now we are clear with what is sporophyte, plant stage which produces spores, and that is the diploid stage. What is gametophyte? Haploid stage, which develops from the spores and contain gamete. That is clear to us. Spores could be of two types, homosporous, heterosporous. So in that way it could be of two types, homosporous and heterosporous. So these things we are clear now. So what were we learning? Let us see. In angiosperms, gametophyte is totally dependent on which one? Gametophyte is totally dependent on sporophyte. So we can easily correlate this. How can we correlate this? So gymno and angio generally we learn together. Okay? Both are seed plants. So again we will see in case of plant kingdom. So what did we learn? In plant kingdom, one group we will categorize. There are angiosperms, and with this we will cluster gymno as well. Angiosperms and gymnosperms. What is the other category? Others are pteridophytes. Then another one they are bryophytes. And then what we have, there is presence of algae. These 5 divisions, the phylum word we use for animals, these divisions we are going to discuss. So what did we learn? In these people, in these dominant stage, main stage, dominant phase, that means for the majority of its life. If you see mango tree, what will you see? Pollen grain? Or what you will see? Embryo sac? No, what we will see? Mango tree. So dominant phase is sporophyte. What is dominant phase? Sporophyte is dominant phase. and which we were learning diploid, sporophyte. And that pollen grain, that embryo sac seed is 100% dependent. Dominant phase is sporophyte, and gametophyte, pollen grain, embryo sac. Gametophyte is completely dependent. Completely dependent on sporo. Completely dependent on sporophyte. You think if there is no sporophyte, root, stem, leaves, then pollen grain will not survive. So it is completely dependent on sporophyte. In algae, in them, ulta event is there. Algae's major life is that green mat which we will see in reverse. So the algae body is haploid. So dominant phase for these is which one? Haploid. That means during the course of evolution, nature has reversed this. From haploid stage, nature shifted the major life of plants towards diploid. Why? Because of homologous pairing, crossing over, we will learn, variation. So this is the major phase, dominant phase, haploid. So what do we call haploid stage? That is gametophyte. That is the haploid stage. So here dominant phase is gametophyte, haploid. That means these plants will produce a spore, but algae will produce gametes. So gametophyte is the dominant stage. And very interesting thing, these are haploid. So if organism is haploid, then what should they undergo? Meiosis they should undergo. So only one cell, only single cell, only one cell sporophyte in them. Only one cell sporophyte is there. See in them, root, stem, leaves, n number, trillions, billions of cells are there. So only one cell is sporophyte. And what this one cell sporophyte is called? Zygote. So one cell sporophyte, that is zygote. So this is the only cell. And this zygote sporophyte, it is highly reduced, and sporophyte is totally dependent. This one is totally dependent. So it is totally dependent on which one? Totally dependent on gametophyte. And this cell will undergo meiosis. This cell will undergo meiosis. And what we will get? This cell will undergo meiosis. So we will get gametophyte. Algae we will get. So listen. In zygote, if meiosis occurs, then the organism will be haploid. Haploid organism we will get. What we will get there? We will get haploid organism we will get. Haploid. So what we will get? There will be haploid organism. Haploid organism will be there. Haploid organism. So in us, are we haploid or diploid? Definitely we are diploid. So zygote underwent meiosis or mitotic division. Mitotic division. So if we are diploid, that means if organism comes to exist in diploid condition, that means zygote must undergo mitosis. Algae are haploid. Major body is haploid. That means their zygote is undergoing which event? Meiosis. An organism is haploid. Here zygote will undergo mitosis. That's why the plants are diploid. Very good. So this one ulta. So what you should always think in this way, okay, nature has turned this upside down. Here major event gametophyte, the major algae's life gametophyte, and sporophyte is totally dependent on that. But here what nature made? This dominant phase is sporophyte, and gametophyte is very tiny pollen grain, that is totally dependent on that. But as we know, okay, within one day it will not occur. So it took time. So algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymno and angio. So in these condition is, so if you look at the algae, so what is the condition here in case of algae? Okay, major phase haploid. Major phase is haploid, and highly reduced tiny phase, that is diploid. That is only zygote. That is totally dependent. This zygote is only sporophyte. And if we look at the angio and gymno, then the story is just ulta. Okay, this one is haploid stage and this is diploid stage, sporophyte. So major one is sporophyte, and these are your pollen grain and embryo sac. Pollen grain and which one? Embryo sac. These gametophytes are totally dependent. Ulta. So in bryo and pterido, events are, in bryo, major phase is haploid only in them. So in them, quite good. So in them, it is like major is major phase. Major phase is which one? Major phase is sporophyte. Sporophyte is the major one, diploid. Sorry, this is ulta. Okay. Major phase in them is gametophyte. Gametophyte. So major phase is gametophyte only, haploid, gametophyte. And which is the minor phase? Minor phase. Minor phase is gametophyte. Sorry, minor phase is sporophyte. 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 And this sporophyte diploid, again it is dependent on which one? Gametophyte. It depends. So it depends on which one? Gametophyte. But this sporophyte, here sporophyte is only zygote, single cellular, one cell sporophyte. This sporophyte here is multicellular. What type it is? Multicellular. That means, what is sporophyte? Diploid. What is the first cell of diploid? Zygote. That means zygote will not undergo here meiosis. So what will be formed? Embryo through mitosis, and that embryo will develop into sporophyte. So from here you can remember easily, bryo. So for the first time, embryo get formed in which organisms? Bryophytes. For the first time, embryo get formed in which one? Bryophytes. And we know from our case also, zygote should undergo mitotic division. Then only there will be formation of embryo. So in them, multicellular sporophyte is there. So easy to remember. In algae, sporophyte is single cellular. Sporophyte, multicellular. In all others, both sporophyte and gametophyte are multicellular. So, but here they are quite elaborate. Similarly, very unique example. So this we are clear with this bryo. So if we look at these bryophytes, if you look at the bryophytes, then what is the case about these bryophytes? In bryophytes, their major phase of life, their major phase of life is what? Haploid, gametophyte, and their minor is which one? Sporophyte, but multicellular. Here it is only single cellular. This is the story of which one? Story of bryophytes. Multicellular sporophyte is totally dependent on the major phase, that is gametophyte. Very unique case exists in case of pteridophytes. Very unique case is there here. So what is that unique case? Very strange. So if you could recall, in algae and bryophytes, gametophyte stage is dominant, haploid stage. So over a period of time, what nature did? Nature made it very ulta, reversed the situation. Major phase is diploid, sporophyte, and pollen grain, embryo sac, they are completely dependent on the sporophyte, just reversed. So in them, in case of pteridophytes, pterido, so I was telling you TO2, so from diploidy starts from here, major phase. So their major phase, dominant phase in case of pteridophyte, dominant phase is called sporophyte. What is dominant phase? Sporophyte is that. That means it is diploid, dominant phase. And very strange event you would notice in them, independent and reduced, highly reduced. Independent means it will do photosynthesis. ncert uses the term inconspicuous. Reduced, independent, reduced, but independent, reduced, that is independent, that means free. Independent and highly reduced, what is there? Gametophyte is there. Which stage is there? Gametophyte is there. So these both sporophyte and gametophyte, they are free. So free living gametophyte is there in them. So are you able to correlate? In algae, major or dominant phase is gametophyte. Single cell zygote, which is the only sporophyte dependent on gameto. Then sporophyte elaborated, multicellular. In bryophytes, but still gametophyte is dominant. Then it was made main phase of the plant from pterido onwards, and then gametophyte is reduced. So at this stage this gametophyte became free. So only in which plants gametophyte and both sporophytes are free, that means both can do photosynthesis in pteridophytes. And in the next group, gymno and angio, we know very well कि highly reduced gametophyte made dependent on which one? It is dependent on sporophyte. One question is, why nature wanted to do all this? Okay, from algae where main phase is haploid and only one cell zygote depends on gametophyte, to angio or gymnosperm where the entire plant is sporophyte, diploid, it will produce a spore, and pollen grain and embryo sac completely made dependent on that. What could be the reason for that? It guarantees food. That embryo which is there inside the seed, it is completely protected. It guarantees what? Food. So pollen grain or embryo sac, they are not photosynthetic. They are provided nourishment by the sporophyte. So if the sporophyte would not perform photosynthesis, they will not survive. So that's why complete protection and full guarantees there of their survival. So the next species would be formed easily. And what all species works for? Survival. All species are trying what? Survival of the fittest, to comfort there, to adapt to the changed environment. So it guarantees continuation of that species. That's why angiosperms are one of the most prevailing plants in our atmosphere. So these are the things. So before starting plant kingdom, we should be definitely very clear with these terms: sporophyte, gametophyte, spores, zygote, haploidy and diploidy. So you should know this. We started with this pterido, tracheate. So vascular tissue starts from pterido. TO, so 2N, diploidy starts from pterido, gymno, angio, major phase, diploidy. TR, true root stem leaves starts from pteridophytes. So in the next lecture we will talk about bryophytes. So for the comparison purpose, first I will start with bryophytes, then we will compare them with the gymno and angio, and other one we will compare them with, other side we will compare them with algae. So in that way we are going to cover plant kingdom. Thank you all. Be wise and revise, then you need nobody's advice. Thank you all.